Greetings and welcome to TMH English Daily News. The headlines today: WHO calls on Ethiopia and Eritrea to guarantee immediate and safe humanitarian access to be allowed into the Tigray region. The Ethiopian government said to be intent on using the battlefield to pursue its conditions for peace, and thousands of Italian women voiced solidarity with women of Tigray. WHO calls on Ethiopia and Eritrea to guarantee immediate and safe humanitarian access into Tigray, and the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, writing on his official Twitter account, also urged the two countries to work for peace. We call on Ethiopia and Eritrea to guarantee immediate and safe access and work for peace. Life is too precious everywhere, Tedros Adhanom said again on his Twitter account. The WHO chief noted that more than a year, the blockade has deprived 7 million people in the Tigray region of urgently needed health care and access to food, and the people are now dying because of it. Amnesty International says that dramatic deterioration in respect for women's rights and their gender equality must be decisively reversed immediately. Amnesty International released a presser highlight alarming assaults on women's rights around the world, including Tigray, Ethiopia, within the years of 2021 and 2022. The COVID-19 pandemic, the overwhelming rollback on women's rights in Afghanistan, the widespread sexual violence characterizing the conflict in Ethiopia, and attacks on abortion and access in the US and the Turkey withdrawal from landmark Istanbul Convention on Gender-Based Violence is just some to touch up on. Amnesty International has reported on widespread acts of sexual violence perpetrated in Tigray region by the Ethiopian and Eritrean forces, and according to Amnesty International, these attacks constitute war crimes and may even have amounted to crimes against humanity as whole. Many of the attacks documented by Amnesty International, such as gang rape, were committed by multiple perpetrators in front of family members, and in some cases, those attacks involved acts of sexual mutilation or were accompanied by ethnic slurs and threats as well. We must stand up to stare down this global assault on women and girls and their dignity, said Amnesty Secretary General Agnes Callamard. On International Women's Day, the organization called for a bold action to reverse erosions of human rights for women as well as young girls. The Ethiopian government is said to be intent on using the battlefield to pursue its conditions for peace. The government has maintained a blockade on the northern state of Tigray to isolate them from Tigrayan forces. International groups hailed a lull in fighting 3 months ago after the Tigrayans halted their advance into the capital of Addis Ababa and pulled back to their region. Observers hoped a window had opened for peace, but that is not the case. Fighting continues. The government, supplied with drones from Turkey and the United Arab Emirates, seems intent on using the battlefield to pursue their conditions for peace. As a result of this war, currently 5.2 million people in Tigray need emergency assistance. 2 million of those people are in the state that have been displaced, and more than 100,000 children are currently at risk of dying from malnutrition, according to the running tally by the Council of Foreign Relations. Since November 2020, UN Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet said Monday airstrikes have killed 304, wounded 373 civilians, and even as the war continues, civil society groups and international human rights lawyers seek post-conflict healing based on the rights of the most vulnerable. Throughout the civil war in Ethiopia, now in its 17th month, consistent and accurate assessments of the fighting and its humanitarian impact have been frustratingly hard to come by. This week, the international community launched a different approach. The United Nations Human Rights Council deployed a team to investigate all the crimes. That project is based on a view of the truth, the reconciliation, and the inclusiveness are prerequisites for enduring peace. Its success may also depend on drawing a deep reservoir of strength Women, 2 of the 3 UN team leaders are African women at that. Carrie Betty Murungi, a Harvard Law School educated human rights lawyer from Kenya and one of the leaders of the UN War Crimes Investigating Team in Ethiopia, notes that rebuilding societies after conflicts requires acknowledging the specific crimes that women and children faced during the war. USA Aid urges the Ethiopian government to facilitate unhindered access for aid trucks. Currently, the only way to get life-saving humanitarian supplies into the Tigray region is by air, but according to USA Aid Bureau of Humanitarian Assistance, aid trucks is the only way to meet the scale of the needs that need to be met. USA Aid said the government is not facilitating any movement of humanitarian trucks by road. It added that with USA Aid's support, the UN Humanitarian Aid Service added a second plane to its operation in Tigray to transport more aid into those in need. The additional plane increases cargo capacity for about 40 metric tons of aid per week to nearly 200. The UN Humanitarian Air Service has now transported about 210 metric tons of aid into Ma'ala as well. The Bureau said, proud to support this improvement, but it's just not enough. 200 metric tons is only about 5 truckloads of supplies, and the humanitarian response in Tigray currently needs at least 500 plus trucks of supplies on a weekly basis. USA Aid Chief Samantha Power wrote on her official Twitter account that with 700K at risk of famine, Ethiopian government must facilitate unhindered humanitarian access immediately. Thousands of Italian women show their solidarity with the women of Tigray. Tigrayan Women Association in Milano and its environs yesterday participated in a demonstration called by women rights organizations in the city of Milano, Italy. Clip after halfway into the video, you'll see that the protests were live. Let's take a listen.
L'Università di Bologna. Ma quanti sanno che la più antica università del mondo fu fondata da una donna? E fu fondata in Marocco e fu fondata nell'859 d.C. Chi lo sapeva qua? Chi lo sa? Queste delle donne arabe nella civiltà islamica. L'università si chiama Al-Qarawwayn, che in arabo significa degli abitanti di Qarawwayn, e si trova in Marocco, nella bellissima del mondo. È un riferimento per l'intera area mediterranea. Alla morte del padre, alla vita delle persone del popolo, a testimonianza del ruolo tutt'altro che sono scuole di istruzione. Col passare del tempo, la moschea divenne la più grande moschea di Africa, in Africa, con una capacità di 22.000 persone. E questo posto, grazie al suo generoso gesto, si poté studiare in maniera completamente gratuita ed era accessibile a qualsiasi tipo di religione, a qualsiasi tipo di popolazione di provenienza. Si studiava non solo la fede spirituale, ma si studiavano retorica, logica, grammatica, matematica, medicina, chimica, storia, astronomia, musica, geografia. E Fatima, perché lei si chiama Fatima, fece costruire quella che oggi è la più antica biblioteca del mondo, con oltre oggi 4.000 libri e preziosi manoscritti. Fatima morì all'età di 80 anni, con 4 figli, soddisfatta di aver dato al mondo una grande potenziale, la conoscenza libera e gratuita a tutti. Vorrei leggere una poesia. Penso che nel tempo che viviamo, soprattutto in questo tempo in cui viviamo, in cui prendiamo consapevolezza di quello che è attorno a noi, in cui dovremmo prendere.
As you guys can see, the solidarity in Europe is strong. Half of all pregnant and breastfeeding women in Tigray are currently malnourished, and thousands of weaponized sexual violence victims have been denied access to basic services due to the Ethiopian government's ongoing blockade of the Tigray region. That concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.